My name is Zach Wortzel. I'm the Career Development Specialist at Rockwell Career Center for Marketing, Undergraduate Accounting, and Entrepreneurship. And welcome to today's session for Recruiters Get Real. We have two great guests with us from TTI.
Hey guys, I'm Joseph Linville. I am actually living in Houston, probably like most of y'all. I am a regional manager with Techtronic Industries, and I am the lead recruiter for the University of Houston. So I think I actually do recognize a few y'all's names that I see on here, and I've probably met most of y'all too pre-COVID. But really excited for this upcoming year. We're gonna be really involved with virtual applications that we have coming up forward. I think it's Simplicity too. You're probably familiar with it, but besides that, I'll pass it off to Jenna.
Awesome. Thanks, Joseph. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Mertz. I'm the recruiting manager for Team TTI or Techtronic Industries. I am coming to you guys from New Jersey. So I'm over here on the East Coast, originally from Philadelphia. I graduated from James Madison University, which is in Virginia, in 2016. I've been with TTI ever since I graduated. I have had a couple of different roles with TTI, so I'll give you a little bit of background on some of those positions, and we can get into more details later. But I started out in the entry-level role, which is what we're hiring for right now. I did that out in Southern California, so I did that for about a year. Then I got promoted to being a territory manager. I did that in Los Angeles for 8 months, and then I joined our brand team over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Moved over there, worked on new product development and commercialization of accessories products for our Milwaukee brand. And then about a year ago, almost like actually a little bit over a year ago, I took a spot on our recruiting team. And so I recruited in the Mid-Atlantic area, which is like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland-ish area. And then in February, I took the role of recruiting manager for Team Heart. Which is our side of the business that calls on Walmart stores and is in Walmart retail, or Walmart retail partner. And so, yeah, I've been doing that now since February, like I said, loving every minute of it, and can't wait to meet you all, interact with you, and tell you more about TTI. So that's me.
Cool. Thank you, guys. First off, and it sort of builds off of what you were saying, can you talk to us a little bit about what your job search process looked like? And any tips that you have for students going through a job search process right now?
Sure. Yeah, I can start there. So I actually, maybe like some of you, had never heard of TTI before seeing them at the career fair. They did heavily recruit at JMU, so I had seen a couple of their classroom presentations before going to the career fair, but I met a recruiter there. I really liked, everything I was hearing from her. I got a chance to interview on campus with them. And what inspired me, I guess, or like had me choose TTI in the first place, was not only like the people I was meeting, all of their unique career paths. They were all really passionate about TTI and, enjoying their career so far and excited about the opportunities to come. I also liked the growth chart. So I don't know if any of you have seen that chart that we have, which kind of explains, the sales, management, marketing path. I thought it was really clear cut. I could really see where my future could go with the company. And then also just the fact that they were nationwide. I did have an interest in kind of moving around and seeing some new locations. And I thought that this would be a good fit and a good opportunity to do that as well. As far as just job hunt in general, I definitely utilized my career services, like counselors over there. So I would go and meet with them maybe like, once a month or something, make sure I was doing the right things. Definitely taking any opportunities I could to connect with employers if they would come in and give presentations in our classrooms. So, following up after, connecting with them on LinkedIn, whatever it was. I'm really big into networking and a big advocate for it. So if there's any opportunities for you guys to, definitely connect with Joseph and I after this. That's really how you can build relationships, build that recognition, and have people remember your face, your name, especially when it comes down to them being able to offer you a job. So I think networking plays a really big piece in that. And then also Handshake. JMU really used Handshake a lot, but there's so many good opportunities and job postings that you can literally apply to right there. So I'd say that's kind of like the top 3 ways I went about looking for a job. And then, of course, attending the career fair where I ultimately got to continue the conversation with TTI as well.
And I would like to add on to that. So I actually have a job posting on the U of H recruiting website. So you've probably seen it at this point. A lot of people don't know the name TTI, Techtronic Industries. It's one of those companies that we don't really market the name, we market our brands. So Heart was one of the brands that Jenna mentioned, if you can see my shirt here. So it's our Walmart brand. Milwaukee is actually probably a more well-known tool at this point. It's going to be what you see in my cup right here. It's more of like our contractor quality tool. And we also own a lot of different brands, vacuum lines like Hoover, Orc, Dirt Devil. So you've probably owned one of our brands at some point. But anyway, if you do see us online, definitely feel free to reach out. All of my info is on there. Today, I'll probably be connecting with you guys, but moving forward, like recruiting, you guys will be able to see me at many different recruiting events, the virtual job fair we have coming up, and just feel free to reach out to me, and obviously reach out today or later if you ever want to connect with Jenna or myself on LinkedIn. But yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Zach.
Cool, thank you. So a question that came in, can you guys talk about the main differences that you've seen between recruiting before and after COVID?
Yeah, I'll take that one. There is so many differences. I think the number one thing being that we don't do any more in-person interviews. So I used to kind of like travel around the country and go to different universities and just different geographic locations where I had needs. I'd set up a full day of interviews and I would just cycle through. I'd be posted up in a Starbucks or something somewhere and be able to meet with multiple people in person. And interview them that way. And definitely talent assessment changes when you are trying to kind of like connect with someone virtually versus in person. There's a lot of things that you can't see or that maybe you don't pick up on as quickly when it is a virtual thing. So definitely had to adapt to that. I think that's one of like the biggest things. And then honestly, the biggest change is going to come this fall semester when we start recruiting on college campuses, but doing that virtually. So adapting to the virtual career fair space, figuring out ways to connect with you all, doing things like this, which I think is a wonderful opportunity. It allows me, who's, coming to you guys from New Jersey right now, to potentially be in Texas and Seattle and, Miami, like all in one day if I want to. I can go to as many schools, just line them up back to back and, meet with students from all over, all from, the comfort of my bedroom here.
Moving into a question that just came in, can you talk about the work culture at TTI? Is it fast-paced, collaborative, etc.? What would you describe the work culture as?
So for me, when I came in, I had a lot of friends. I graduated in 2017, so really not that far removed from college. And a lot of my friends didn't get to take on that much responsibility right out of college. And to them, it was a little bit disappointing. And one thing that I think is a big part of our culture is the autonomous responsibilities that you get, like in reference to in Houston, we have 30 plus people working in Houston. But at the same time, everyone has their own responsibilities and everyone is given so much responsibility that if I were to grow my own sales market, the credit is coming to me. And although we work as a team collaboratively, at the same time, it's really important to know that, what I put, the work I put into, it's really going to reflect on, my own name, which is awesome to me because I'm a hard worker. I love to go and hit the different markets that I have throughout Houston. And at the end of the day, whenever I grow that market, it's all going to come back to me. And I had a great support system with all of my coworkers in Houston, with my my managers in Houston. And ever since I've been moving up throughout the company, even as a TM, I didn't really talk about it yet, but I'm mostly on the sales side. I started out as a field sales rep in Houston, and then I moved to managing Houston, and then managing the Southeast in certain cities, and now just the Gulf Coast. But each time that I've taken on management responsibilities as well, I get to create my own culture on my team. So I have a team of 13 right now. And, at the same time that we do all have separate cities throughout, Houston, maybe Corpus Christi, and my territory may be a little bit bigger than most. We do try to still get together pre-COVID and be able to have some sort of team hangout. We'll do something fun together. That way we create that team element at the same time. We have different group chats. I don't know if y'all have used Teams before. If not, you definitely will whenever you get into the Worklife. But going forward with that, it's open communication all the time. But at the same time, you do have a lot of responsibility that you're able to take on yourself.
I would add that, yes, it is very fast-paced. It's dynamic. No day is the same. It's definitely not kind of like your typicals after that if you choose. are going to be out in the field. So there's a lot of variety. You're meeting with a lot of different customers. You're meeting with store managers, department managers, a lot of key decision makers, building business relationships and partnerships, running and executing marketing events. So having a lot of opportunities to interact with a lot of different people, definitely work on those relationship building skills, those communication skills, and just really have a really like fast-paced kind of like job to start out with, which I think is really cool, where you learn a ton. I think that's one thing I wanted to emphasize too, is that we kind of have a motto of like, never satisfied, always improving. So we're always improving ourselves. We're trying to, meet goals, get results, and take our teams and our territories and everything to the next level, as well as, work our way up through the ranks and create really like awesome careers for ourselves that are result in goal, always making an impact, and working and building towards, a better career and a better, I guess like company. So that's the only thing I would add, but I think Joseph said it pretty well.
We asked a question that was asked, it kind of goes back to sort of what Joseph was talking about, meeting students on campus. But after a student connects with an employer or meets an employer on campus, how do you follow up with them? Potentially, if you haven't talked to them for a while, what would be some advice on how you can do that follow-up?
Whenever I meet students, I usually try to give my card out. And sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Like I just get distracted as a person. I'm just constantly trying to start conversations with everybody, and I forget to give them my info. But if you know my name, what I would do if I were a student is I would research me on LinkedIn. And I know each person here is probably like an A1 Facebook stalker and can find someone just with their first name. I can name 10 people in my hand right now that are my friends that can do that. But search TTI, search Houston, you'll find my name. And I send a message and say, hey, my name is such and such. We met here, name the location. And obviously you can imagine like Jenna meets a lot more people than I do. I kind of manage a sales side and a recruiting side at the same time. But for recruiters, since they meet so many people, it's always good to kind of name the location, remind the recruiter of where you met them and your goals moving forward. And if TTI is something that you wanted to do, you'd say, hey, I love what you were saying about obviously managing your own market in this way. How can I improve myself maybe now in the current moment, and then move forward from there? And if you're currently looking for a job, saying, what are some steps I can move forward to apply and getting my name out there? But LinkedIn is a great way to go about it, as well as if you had my info, any recruiter out there, don't be afraid to email them. I think so many conversations I have end with, hey, definitely email me. I'd love to see an email come from you this week, sending me your resume if they didn't have it on them or such and such. And a lot of times people get really intimidated after they've waited 2 days, like, oh, has it been 48 hours? And yes, it is great to send it within 48 hours, but it's never that bad to just, if it goes a little over 48 hours, still send it. A lot of times with students, I understand you have tests, you have projects, you have all the extracurriculars that you have. So still send it, and don't be afraid to just be like, oh, well, it's been over 24 hours. Like, I don't know the exact rule. Are they going to think I'm not responsible? No, it's not a big deal. I think most recruiters are as relaxed as you think they are. They aren't all very uptight. But obviously be professional in the way you reach out. Don't say, hey, this is Nick. Great to see you again. And kind of leave it open-ended, because a recruiter may be like, where did I meet this person again? What's the situation? But Jenna, I see you're back in the video forum. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is follow up. I mean, we all have like so many things going on. We're going to all these different schools. We're, having to do different, job functions. Like Joseph is a territory manager. He's managing a team of people. So sometimes there are, possibilities for our communication back to be a little delayed, or, things just fall through the cracks. So don't be afraid to initiate that, follow up with us. But definitely using all the interactions to grab contact information. So, never forget to ask for business cards, emails, collect or connect on LinkedIn right then and there, so that that there's a way that you can get in contact with that person after. And then it's just following up and being persistent. But yeah, I think Joseph covered a lot of good things. That's just what I would add to that.
I'm going to answer a question that we got, and if you guys wanted to add more information to it, That'd be great too. Someone asked to be more specific of the position that's open with you all in Bauer Gateway. It's going to be listed as field sales and marketing rep, and it is on Bauer Gateway and open right now. To build off of that, someone asked, what would the day-to-day role look like in that position?
I'll use Houston as a great environment. I'm going to use actually my first job with the company as a great example. So I manage, if you guys are familiar with like Baytown, I had a Baytown market and I had a few stores within that market, and I started in our Home Depot business. So, and within the Home Depot business, we sell Ryobi, Milwaukee, Ridgid. So we have a number of brands inside that market. And my goal, what I was tasked with, is growing that market and seeing sales growth year to year. And with that sales growth, what it takes is obviously checking on supply chain, making sure inventory is coming in, also maintaining everything that is within the store. On top of that, I had many stores that I was managing at the same time. So I need to make sure I'm creating strong relationships with store managers. And most of y'all have probably taken a marketing class at this point. You want to make sure that all of your product is marketed in like the high traffic areas, right? You want people to see your product, see the promotions that you have going on. So a lot of it is challenging yourself to create that relationship with managers to then place your product in the best areas throughout the store. So you're using all this knowledge you learned in college to try to grow the specific stores that you have. And as you move up through the company, obviously you take on more stores, you take on teams. Even Jenna went into the fact that she went into like the marketing side. It was creating different marketing schemes to go into a Home Depot or a Walmart setting, which is super cool. But yeah, Jenna, do you have anything to add to that too?
I mean, that's pretty much it. In the entry-level position that we are hiring for, you're given, essentially like a chunk of our business. So, whether that's 5 to 7 Walmart stores or Home Depot stores, and that's your territory to manage. So you have a lot of autonomy of, what goes on within that territory. And you are, responsible. Your main objective is to grow that territory, like Joseph said. So a lot of what you're doing is a ton of sales driving activities. You're planning and executing events. You're having important meetings to strategize with managers and department heads. You're just building relationships, and you're really just building the brand. All the while, you're learning as much as possible so you can get to those higher level positions. It's kind of like our motto that you need to learn the business before you can run the business. Of sales reps, if he's never been one, right? He didn't know what the day-to-day was. He didn't know what the struggles were, didn't know what how to deal with certain problems, but he knows all that because he already did the first position. Same for me in pretty much every role I've had beyond the first role. How can I market to a plumber or an electrician or anybody buying a power tool accessory if I've never sold one or if I've never interacted with anybody who bought those products. So everything you learn in that first role is really, really valuable and just helps you in all those roles you have beyond that. So it is a lot of learning, a lot of training, a lot of selling, just a really big year to build your foundation of knowledge.
Someone asked, do you have positions in Houston right now? And I know you have positions all over, but can you talk about where your positions that are open right now are?
So with our company, when I was on the Houston side, we have 2 parts of our business, and it kind of gets confusing right at first when you first learn about TTI. We have a Home Depot side and a Walmart side, and we work independently but also cohesively. So in recruiting, a lot of times Jen and I will first look at, let's see if we can fill any positions on the Walmart side, managing different accounts throughout the Houston area. And if it is full, then we'll pass it off to the Home Depot side. And we also have a lead recruiter inside of Houston, ironically enough, which is really nice, one of my good buddies. And we'll talk to him and say, hey, you have even like 30 positions inside of Houston. Let's see if anything is going to open up in the next like 2 months. And we plan ahead of time as well. So currently at this moment on my side of the business, I am full in Houston, but at the same time, I'm planning on hopefully promoting 2 people on my team. And if I can get 2 people promoted on my team in the next like month or 2, I need to make sure that I have a backfill ready to go. And so that's why we're always constantly recruiting in the Houston market, because we could easily have someone promoted in the next month, and then you'd be starting the next week after they leave their market. And at the same time, like Houston may not be as open at the current moment, but there's always those opportunities in the future. And then we have reps throughout all of Texas, throughout the whole U.S., So that is a big strength of ours, is that if you do not want to go just to Houston for now, maybe you want to go to Dallas, or even like somewhere, if you have family in like New Orleans, like we can try to see if there's openings there that open up in the next month or two, or even now if we have them. And if you do well, you stay there 6 months to a year, year and a half, and you want to come back to Houston, there's tons of opportunities in Houston in management and sales. So a lot of people start outside their hometown and then make their way back as well. There's different options there. Jenna, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I can just touch on current positions that we are hiring for. There's a ton nationwide, so I'll start with Texas. So we do have Fort Worth, Texas. We have Beaumont, Texas. We have Amarillo, Texas. We have El Paso, Texas. Moving, I guess, more west, we have Glendale, Arizona. We also have a position in Denver, Colorado. I'll head back over to the north. We have Buffalo, New York. We have Binghamton, New York, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, Somerset, Kentucky, Morristown, New Jersey. Let me think what else. We have Atlanta, Georgia. We have Fayetteville, North Carolina. And those are just some, like literally any city you can think of in America is where we do have positions. So, you know, let's say you are interviewing for a job with us this fall, and you want to really go to, you know, someplace that's in Houston, like you could still get a job offer for Houston now, just because like Joseph said, we like to plan ahead and make sure that we have people slated for when all those promotions and all that movement comes. So we are still going to be hiring for nationwide when we come on to campus this fall, not just for, you know, current openings, but those are our current openings, if you guys are wondering.
So a question I got asked is, as recruiters, what stands out to you the most, and what are skills that you're looking for?
What stands out to me the most, I think, is people who have really clear and like confident communication. You know, my first interaction with you might be through email. So, you know, having that air of professionalism is very helpful. Being prompt and timely in your responses, and getting us to that point where we can actually talk in person. And then having kind of like a clear way that you're explaining to me all the things you've been able to accomplish in the past. So your past experiences, any results you're able to get. Again, like I don't need to see people with years and years of sales experience. I'm hiring for an entry-level role. I just want you to be able to tell me about, you know, problems or things you've identified, actions that you took in order to change things or to make an impact, and then what was the result of that? You know, whether that was in a job, an internship, a student organization. So those are the kinds of things that I look for. Qualities, definitely people who are self-starters, who take initiative, who've held leadership positions, people that are creative and think outside the box, good at problem solving and critical thinking. You know, those are just a couple things that we look for. But, you know, with our leadership development program, we're looking for people to step into leadership positions really early on in their career. So we want to see that you have the capacity to do that and to take it, run with it, and then get to the next level.
So one thing that I get a lot whenever I go on campuses, and I hit a lot of the campuses here in the South Texas area, is people come up and they say, hey, really cool idea. I love y'all's pitch. I love the idea of TTI. And I asked them like, hey, what's your goals? Like, give me your elevator pitch, if you guys have ever heard that term. And an elevator pitch is pretty much you're going in and listing out the goals that you have and the experiences that you have that may relate to the job that you want, right? And so a big answer I get sometimes is, I don't really know what I want to do. And they kind of leave it open-ended to me. And it makes it more difficult for a recruiter in that situation, because I really don't know what past experiences you have at this point. You know, if I did know you as a friend and like we talked, I may be able to know, oh, hey, you've done this in the past. Like, here's the goals that you'd have. Maybe this is how you excel in TTI or even a different career. So before you go into like career fair, look up your past experiences, what you really want to do in a job. And I know everyone says, I don't know what I want to do like 5 years down the road, even a year down the road for some people. And they're like, I'm a senior. I don't even know what I want. Still, like, think of a strong goal and where you could use your strengths. And when you talk to a recruiter, talk about those strengths and talk about how that relates to TTI, you think. And sometimes you might learn that, you know, those strengths don't really correlate with what we have. At the same time, I love to hear that you have these strengths, and I may be able to tie them back to something else that we have in our future with TTI, because we have a great flow chart and we have tons of sales, marketing, and management jobs. So that's all I have to add. Back to you, Zach.
You mentioned the flow chart with the sales and marketing management opportunities. a student asks is, do you all hire at all on your supply chain side?
Yeah, we do. But those people typically will either come up through the leadership development program. So you would start off in the entry level sales and marketing position, so you can learn as much as possible about the jobs. But if you wanted to, we do have like a separate recruiting system for kind of like more corporate based jobs. So sometimes people do go directly into supply chain. But we're not always constantly hiring for those. Like we're constantly hiring for the other roles just because there's not as many. But it is still an option. Yes.
What are some of your favorite things for working with TTI, and what would you say is the number one thing that drew you there?
I'd love to answer this. So I went to A&M, and I had a friend who was in our kind of like higher level sales position with TTI, and he handled the pretty much Southeast Texas market. And when I came out of college, like first off, I was looking at joining nonprofit work or maybe going into even consulting. I was a management major in the business school. And what drew me to it, and I'm going to try to get all these answered, hopefully. What drew me to it is the aspect of there is a lot of that responsibility you get early on, and there's a high ceiling with the company. And a lot of my friends got into positions, and they even told me like, hey, I'm going to work at this corporate office, this, that, and other. And they didn't really have like a set plan. They said, oh, I get to be in the position for 2 years, and then I go to this position maybe for 2 more years, and there's really not much more I can go into until someone quits above me or like passes away or something. That's dark, but jokes. But with all that being said, with TTI, we had such a great flow chart. If you're looking at the flow chart right now, I know we just mentioned it beforehand. I love the aspect that I could jump into management because that was my major, and I love to manage people because I love coaching, developing. I've worked with like little league teams, and I've also worked with a lot of college students and teams, and I feel like I would do very well at that. And I had a lot of organizational behavior studies back in college. And so seeing that I could become a rep and then a territory manager and a regional manager and even a divisional sales manager, and there's still room to move up. And the fact that there's so many people in leadership that do have experience, they may be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, even higher, but also in their late 20s, that they came out of college and they just hit the ground running. They worked hard and they were rewarded for that. My buddy was able to show me that, and that was a really big standing out feature to me. The part that I loved about the job is that I get to talk to people all day. And if you know me, I can't sit in one place for a long time. Sitting at home during COVID sometimes, it drives me nuts. And if I worked in a corporate environment, it really wouldn't suit my strengths. And so being able to go out and work in different markets, when I first started in Houston, I got to visit a lot of different cities in Houston. I'm from Frisco, Texas, if you're familiar with it. So it's a new city. It was a lot of fun. Got to visit a lot of places, make a lot of new relationships with store managers. And ever since I've been growing through the company, I've been able to meet so many new people. I get to visit Jacksonville, Florida, and Memphis, Tennessee, and meet a lot of managers there, develop relationships, set meetings. And my day-to-day is just developing those relationships, and it's a blast to me. And I'd rather do that than sit down all day, which for some people, the corporate environment is their thriving place. I have plenty of roommates that go to corporate offices every day, and they absolutely love it. Just not for me, and that's why I love this company. Even though I should know, we do have a lot of corporate jobs, and I think Jenna could speak higher to that, more to that. But I'm transparent. I'm very open about what I like.
Yeah, well, the good thing about TTI is that there is a place for everybody. So whether you're an office type person who wants a more kind of like routine schedule or being closer to the teams that you are working in and with, we have a ton of corporate offices. And I guess I'll just speak about a couple of them right now. We do have one in Charlotte, North Carolina, one in Greenville, South Carolina, and one in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And that's where our marketing jobs are, finance jobs, ops jobs, supply chain, all those are there. So there is opportunities to do that as well and to grow in great careers, and there's tons of upward mobility in those offices as well. For me, why I joined TTI was definitely because of the growth potential. I liked the chart. I liked seeing, where I could go. But also there being a possibility that the job that I would take on next might not even be on that chart. Because at TTI, I've always, like I mentioned it before, we kind of operate like a startup. We're always looking for new opportunities, always looking to get into new product categories or go after a different end user segment, whatever it is. So, the job that any of you could take on in 2 or 3 years, might not even exist right now. And that's something that either you could bring about, like that change, like, hey, I really think that I see a need for this. Let's, pursue this. And honestly, like, we're so open door policy, like we're always open to that. We are constantly collecting feedback from everybody. And if it makes sense and it's going to make us better as an organization, we're going to do it. So you have the ability to make that kind of an impact here at TTI, or, take on a position like the position I'm in now was created in February. Like, I'm the first person to have ever held this role, which I think is really cool and something that really excited me. So I get to figure out everything, make all the standards and the tracking and, how things are done for the recruiting team for Team Heart is now all coming and stemming from me, which I really like that opportunity to, kind of own something like that. I think that's really cool. So that's kind of like what's kept me around, and is also closely correlated. It's like my favorite part about my job is just, how creative I get to be all the time, how much ownership I have over the things that I do, and the great impact I feel like I'm able to make, every day. So.
Can you talk a little bit about work-life balance at TTI, and also how is feedback given?
I'd love to talk on that. So for the first position, it is we create the balance there as much as possible, because it's going to be 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. And the schedule differs. It can be from 7 a.m. to 3:30 or 8 a.m. to 4:30. It just depends on the market that you have. But we really hone in on the fact that we don't want you working overtime. I've done jobs, I'm not going to name the companies or anything like that, when I was in college, actually internships, where I worked, oh my gosh, it was like 60 hours a week. 2 months went by and it felt like a year, and it was terrible to me. And with this company, working that 40 hours a week, and again, it's constantly like developing your market, using your marketing skills that you learned in college, using your communicating skills, your presentation skills. The days went by so fast. The first year went by and it felt like a month. And I absolutely love that aspect of it. When it comes to, you said work-life balance, and then what was the last question too?
Feedback. How's feedback given?
Feedback. So what I do personally is, and this is how much of our structure is built upon, is we do verbal, what we call 2x2s. So I'm going to give you 2 strengths and 2 opportunities to work on every work with that I have with someone on my team. And after maybe every other visit, I'll do a written 2x2 with you. That way you can usually build upon the same goals. If I give it written down the next time we meet, usually verbally, it's going to be about the same. But the next time we meet, they'll probably change a little bit. And so I'm able to give you that written feedback to where you can go back and look at it 2, 3, 6 months, a year down the road, and see where your strengths have been and where your opportunities lie, and you're able to build upon that. And in many ways, our management team works with different people outside of their own teams, and we have a very open communication style here. And a lot of people find mentors not even on their own team, not even their own manager. I still work with people on my old teams as well, and they reach out to me, even though I usually direct them to their current manager for certain questions. But if they want to have questions about opportunities in the store, I'd love to talk to them. And that's how many people inside of TTI are.
So a question also that came through, someone said it sounds like there's room to grow and further development your skills within the company. How would you say that your sales and marketing processes have changed because of COVID?
The sales and processes, I mean, first off, we limit the exposure to others, right? So inside of sales and making sure that your market is growing. Actually, I'll start here. So we sell power tools, right? And I should give a background on this. With power tools, the home improvement industry, or just like category, has done very well through COVID. A lot of people are staying home. They're working on their lawns. Actually, the category of like paint is taking off right now instead of like a Home Depot, or I'm assuming Lowe's or Walmart, whatever it may be. And with that, you need to sometimes buy a sander, or you need to buy, people working on projects in their garage. They're cutting things, using a jigsaw to cut something and then painting it. So sales are going very well right now. So a lot of it has to do with making sure that we have inventory coming in. And with so much going off the shelf, we want to make sure that people have something on the shelf to physically buy when we're not there. Because you can't be in every store every day. A lot of times you're just partnering with these stores and make sure that their counts are correct. And a lot of people, it's crazy to see how much it surprises some people. Having a rep inside of a store, maybe even like a 4 to 10 store market, actually improves sales. And the sales growth we have in those stores comparatively to stores that don't have a rep is phenomenal. And so with the change with COVID coming, you can see with management, obviously, like we do a lot of virtual calls now. I do a lot more phone calls and in-person meetings than I used to. But with people inside of their stores, what we used to do is we'd hold giant events. And you have all these demo tools out. You're able to invite people a week out, and a lot of homeowners will come out. A lot of times contractors will come out, And now obviously like we try to limit our interaction when it comes to those demo events, but we still have people working in the stores, working with customers on a daily basis, keeping their distance, wearing masks, having Lysol wipes on them, having hand sanitizer on them, especially when you have communication with like store managers. It's the same thing. Like everyone is very cognizant of what's going on, and we follow every protocol to make sure everyone's safe at all times. Did I miss anything, Jenna?
I'll just touch on kind of like the marketing side of that. So a big part of our marketing strategy is we invest really, really heavily in research and development. And what our research looks like is our product marketers going to job sites, working with end users, asking them questions about their current applications, their current solutions, their troubles, all that kind of stuff, and funneling that information back to the offices so that the engineers and those concept teams can work on stuff like that. So obviously when COVID started, all of the travel stopped. So going, physically to a job site or something was put on hold for a little bit. So a lot of the meetings and things that we were having with end users and places we were gathering research turned into virtual meetings. Same thing happened with our sales force. We have an outside sales team as well, which is an opportunity for you all after the first position. Same thing. So they weren't going to as many in-person sales calls. It was a lot of things happening via Teams. But we were really determined as a company not to let it slow down the process at all. So we're still, at the same rate, developing new products, investing in R&D and, working collaboratively via Teams or Zoom or whatever it is to get products moving through the new product development process. And to market. So I would say there was, more virtual communication than normal, but all the same things were still taking place because as Joseph touched on before, our businesses and, kind of like the certain sectors we operate in, they were thriving, right? All of our, products that we sell were very relevant to what people were doing during COVID while they were at home. So that didn't really slow down for us at all. So we wanted to continue to provide that innovation and use those opportunities to really get more of our products out into people's hands as well. So I would say just the virtual nature of everything changed what was typically in person. That was the biggest thing.
What, when interviewing, when you ask the question or get asked the question, what is your greatest weakness? How do you look for students to answer that question? As a recruiter, what are you looking for in that answer?
So we like to say, you're gonna maybe laugh at me. We like to say opportunities to improve, right? We don't like to say, hey, this is your weakness.
You mean areas of improvement?
Yeah, is that what they were talking about, like weaknesses? Because that's how we kind of word it.
Areas of improvement is my nice way of saying it. Yes, areas of improvement.
I usually like to see people come in, especially in an interview question. If I ask them, hey, what are your opportunities to improve? And sometimes I ask you one or two. It depends on how long the conversation is going. And I like for people to be a little bit, I think everyone needs to be a little bit humble in some way and know that, I do have an opportunity to improve. I'm not perfect. Personally, myself, I'm not perfect. I try to handle too many things at one time. And so I got to think, what is the solution to that? I need to work on prioritization. And that's going to be always an ongoing battle, especially since I took on even a new, bigger or different management role the last actually 2 weeks, funny enough. From going to the Southeast to the Gulf Coast, I have to prioritize all these new relationships I need to build. I can't just pile it on at one time. But when I ask someone that, I expect them to come out and say, hey, like, here's my opportunity to improve, and this is what I'm doing to improve it right now. This is these are the tactics I'm taking. And sometimes, especially in like not even interview situation, if I'm talking to someone on my team about it, they present it, and then I want them to say, hey, like, this is what I'm doing. Do you have any recommendations down to that, or do you think it's a good plan of action? Just so I know that they are able to develop their solution on their own, and then they love to get mentorship on top of that.
When I ask that question in interviews, I think it's kind of a red flag when someone says they don't have any weaknesses. So definitely don't do that because there's always opportunities for all of us to improve. And like Joseph said, it's not really like what the weakness is. It's what you're doing to improve upon it. And, to me, that says you have an element of self-awareness. You've been able to identify an area that you can improve in, and then you've decided to take some actions to really work on that. And again, you don't have to be perfect. We're not looking for perfect people. We're not perfect ourselves. We're just looking for people who can identify those types of things and then, are working looking to actively get better.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Can you talk a little bit about what the recruiting process would look like for your entry-level position?
Okay, so I can take this one. So the recruiting process is, pretty straightforward. So let's just play out the scenario that, we connect with you guys through like the virtual career fair or something this fall semester. You would interview with like Joseph or I for 2 rounds, like we would say like on campus, but it would most likely be virtual. And then we have a 3rd round interview process. So typically in non-COVID times, we actually fly people to our corporate headquarters where they would have the opportunity to get a corporate tour. And we have a whole like kind of like 1.5 to 2 days like set up where they'll do, networking dinners. There'll be a whole panelist, like a panel of people they can hear from who hold different positions within the company. And then they would have 3 more interviews at the corporate office with people at the director, divisional sales leader, president level. And then from there, you would potentially get an offer. We are still doing like the 3rd round interview process. However, it's most likely going to be virtual. It might be virtual. We haven't really just discussed exactly what it's going to look like, but I'm sure it'll look a little bit different than in years past. But you would still go through basically like 3 rounds of interviews. So like I said, a 1st and 2nd, like on campus with, Joseph or me or probably both of us, and then 3 more interviews in like the final round. And then we do offers from there. If you guys are looking for jobs right now, and so like we'll play out the scenario that right after this, you email Joseph, hey, I'm interested in whatever position. You would interview 1 round with him, a 2nd round with another manager, and then your 3rd round would be with our director of sales. And that's kind of like how it would all move through. It would all be virtual. And then we could get you started before the end of the summer. So
I'd love to add to that. So with COVID going on, it is more difficult to like see someone's face and remember who they are. I mean, I have a decent memory, so I can remember most people that I talk to at this point. But at the same time, imagine you're going to a recruiter and you're just emailing them, or you met them once or on a phone call. Definitely follow up through email. Definitely connect with them on LinkedIn, because in this time that we live in, it's so different than we've ever experienced. And communication is going to be key. And if you aren't familiar with like great reach out practices, something I did when I was in college, I just Googled it. I said, what is the best way to stand out to a recruiter? What is the best way to communicate with them and get my point out across in a succinct way that's going to not be too lengthy or too wordy and won't like get brushed under the rug or something like that? Definitely do your research there, but definitely communicate and over communicate if you need to, especially in these times that we live in.
Another interview question that I would love your opinion on. What are you looking for in the tell me about yourself introduction? What are you wanting to hear? How long of an answer do you want that to be? How personal do you want that to get? Like, what do you want to hear from just like that general introduction at the beginning of an interview?
Going back to what I was saying earlier, elevator pitches are huge to me. When you go to career fair, I remember I was in the same boat freshman year. I was like, I'm going to go into these introductions and I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to go up there and be like, oh, cool. That's your company. Tell me a little bit about it. And now that I'm sitting on the other side, I'm like, man, I was just so dumb as a freshman. Like, what in the world was I thinking? I like to see that people come in doing the research ahead of time, knowing about the companies they're going to talk to. And of course, you're going to have some conversations with companies that you may run into there. But having a prepared pitch of what you're involved with in the past and the different organizations or jobs that you've held and what you're looking for, like what are your goals, is so important to me when I talk to somebody, because I can take the conversation from there and talk about what they've already talked about. If they just introduce themselves and say this is their major, I hear that all day and it's kind of hard to go off of, and it's not a memorable conversation. Jenna, you recruit all day. Do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's probably like 2 different scenarios we can talk about here. So like the first is if you were gonna like meet someone at a virtual career fair. And like Joseph said, there's, a good like elevator pitch is something that's great to create. For me, I definitely want to know like hard and fast, like what year are you? What's your major, and like what are you looking for? So whether that's like a full-time job or an internship or externship, part-time job, whatever it is, just so like I know like what I what I have and what I can position to you. Because if you tell me, hey, I'm a freshman engineer and I'm looking for like a year-long, co-op, like I don't have that, right? So like right off the bat, I can tell you that I'm sorry, like this might not be the job for you. So I think those, 3 things are pretty important. But then also tell me a little bit about, maybe if you're in any student organizations, if you have or you hold any leadership positions, if you are in any like athletics, and then maybe like geographic location too is pretty important. But yeah, that's kind of like the main stuff. And then it will be like up to like the recruiters to kind of pull some things out of you as well. But I would definitely just have a lot of that kind of in your back pocket. You definitely don't want to, come up and spit out, a minute and a half long thing that you've memorized that's like super robotic. But just a couple facts just to get the conversation started. And like Joseph said, just kind of like have in the back of your mind a lot of those experiences in mind. So I always say just, take a trip down memory lane before you step into the career fair so you remember, what you did in your past internship last summer or, some projects you worked on, maybe in some of the classes you had or something like that, just so that you'll have some answers to our questions too. But that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Cool, thank you. I think that was really helpful. A student asked a follow-up. When you mentioned researching a company, what are the things that you want students to research and know about? Is it their products? Is it their financials? Like, what is it? What would you want people to know about?
For me, it's the career path, and they're coming today to find a job, right? And I want them to know what jobs that we have. I do get a question a lot, and I have friends that are recruiters. They get a question a lot, like, what do you guys have to offer for me? Like, what jobs you got? And it's just like, oh, well, we can talk about jobs. It can speed the conversation along a little bit if like even a 1-year plan with the company and saying, hey, my end goal is to be the head of y'all's operations. I want to be a director of operations one day, and I want to take the path that's going to get me there the quickest. And I love to see that kind of research, but also like what the company's been doing in the past year. It's great to drop in there every now and then, like, hey, I saw y'all just acquired this company in this way. And I'm like, okay, yes, they have done the research. That's fantastic. I may touch on that acquisition for a second, but I probably will mainly hit on a job fair, like the career opportunities that we have and your background as an individual.
For me, I think like I generally just want to know that you've like just taken a look at our website and know what kind of products we sell, and kind of like what is our business, right? Like, so we're like a manufacturing company, we're in consumer goods, we have certain brands, and like the products that we represent. Sometimes people get kind of tripped up by the name, and that's very obvious. They think we're like a tech company, and we deal with a lot of like parts and like computers and stuff, which it then becomes apparent to me that they have not really done any research at all. I definitely don't recommend going into any kind of interview situation being like, oh yeah, no, I didn't look up anything about the company. Like, could you tell me more? That doesn't really say that you're that interested to me. Cause I'm looking for people who are genuinely like interested in joining my company, even if what you're interested in is the leadership development program that I have, and the positions in management, marketing, and sales, right? You don't have to be a diehard Milwaukee tool fan who uses my tools, every single day of your life. That's great if so, but it's more so like, hey, did you do a little bit of background to know like, what are the opportunities? What kind of space does this company operate in? And like, this is something that I'm going to actively pursue. So that's what it is for me.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. It definitely backs up a lot of the stuff from a career counselor's perspective. We talk about all the time. When I do interview career fair presentations, I always say, if your first question is what jobs do you have, you can almost guarantee you're probably not getting a call back. But I also think I also want to point out, like with research, this isn't Stump the Recruiter. So when as you can see, they want a little bit of knowledge, but doesn't necessarily have to get into the nitty gritty of some things. Can you talk about a tip that you guys wish that someone might have told you before you got started in your professional career?
What I most wished I knew while I was looking for jobs, so I'll just kind of, start there, was the persistence piece, and that you're not annoying. It actually is like showing me that you're interested and engaged. Because now that I'm a recruiter, I know how many things I'm managing at one time and how many different conversations I'm having in the course of the day could get to like literally corresponding with over 200 people. So, you know, if you don't hear back from somebody and a couple days pass, like definitely reach out, you know, need the follow-up right after every interaction. Like if this is something you want, you know, show me that you want it and come after it, because that really speaks to me as a recruiter. And not that I wasn't like tenacious in my job hunt, but I think that I definitely could have been more aggressive with my follow-up. And who knows, that might have led to more opportunities, right? Not just saying like, oh, guess I wasn't a good fit, you know, maybe next time. You know, if it's something you really want, go after it. So I think like, honestly, right now, that's my biggest tip for you guys.
So a lot of y'all are going to move into a new situation. You know, hopefully everyone's going to be finding a job right out of college here soon. And I think I look back on it as the same situation when I first went to college, and y'all could probably, a lot of y'all could relate to this. It's new. No one likes change. It's same with business, same with just life in general. It's difficult. And having confidence is a hard thing to develop right away, and it takes time. And so what I, you know, coach people right away when they come in is fake the confidence until it becomes real. And having that confidence in any sort of situation speaks so much. And thinking about like, I'm gonna random things that I learned in college. I learned that first impressions mean a lot more than you think. It takes 20-second impressions to change a first impression. And they've also, I saw studied once about in interviews, people who ended up going in more confident, and they had them do things called power poses, ended up statistically getting jobs more often than not. And when you ever go into these offices that you may go into, building these partnerships, these people that you meet are going to love to see someone that's confident, maybe not overconfident in some ways, but, you know, obviously you want to believe in yourself, go in with a smile, but fake that confidence until it becomes real. And I do that even today in every situation. I go into something new and I'm just, all right, I can do this. You got this, Joseph. Fake it till you make it. And then eventually that confidence becomes real, and it carries me so much farther than I thought it would.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. A quick question. How do you guys feel about students asking for feedback after interviews? Is that something that as recruiters you're all open to? I know sometimes students are hesitant to do that.
Definitely, like for me, I don't mind giving feedback, but to be honest, there is kind of like some limitations on things I'm allowed to say after an interview. So I can't just, you know, like one-off interact with you and, you know, tell you like every single thing that I would change about our interview. Just because, you know, there is some things that are like somewhat off limits for like employer to like candidate like contact. But I really don't mind it. You know, just be ready for, you know, feedback if you're asking for it too. And don't, I guess like take it too personally, just use it as an opportunity to get better. But yeah, I don't mind it, but just know that there are like some limitations, so it might not be able to be like just, you know, poured out like honesty on all levels. So.
And then Joseph, I got a question for you that it's funny because you mentioned it well before we jumped on the call. Someone asked what the map behind you is all about.
It always comes. This is my interview spot. So my roommate actually works for I guess I can say TCEQ, and these are the maps that they used back in the day to pick sites that were pretty much like contaminated water sites, I believe. And this is what they did before technology, right? And I'll kind of give you guys a glimpse. So you can see East Houston may have a few more because of all the refineries over there than West Houston, but this is the way they did it. I don't know how they found the location. We always joke about like, if someone was like, yeah, I'm at like Missouri Street and this, like I'd be sitting there in the map all day looking for like a pin to put on and be like, okay, now how am I going to get there? MapQuest didn't exist. Google Maps didn't exist. So, but yeah, that's what the map is.
Yeah, and I've always ended these sessions with the same question. Would you all just end sharing one piece of advice that you'd have for students that are going through recruiting right now, considering how everything's sort of up in the air and how difficult things might be? So just one last piece of advice for students that are recruiting at the moment.
It would be to really take advantage of all the resources that you do have available. You know, a lot of us are hiring. We have jobs. We need people. Your career services center, they want to get you in contact with people. They want you to get you jobs. They want to help you in any way they can. So utilize them, utilize Handshake, get on LinkedIn, get on Indeed. You know, there's a lot of, you know, digital resources out there. Don't use this as an excuse like, oh, well, it's COVID, nobody's hiring, whatever. Like, there's companies that are hiring. I mean, we're hiring. So there's a ton of opportunities that are out there if you try, if you look, and if you use the things that are available to you. So take advantage of everything and every opportunity. I think it's really great you guys are all here right now. But again, use this, build on it. Whether it's, what questions to ask next time, or ways now, you can find and interact with TTI. But that would be my biggest piece of advice to you guys.
You guys are at home probably a lot more than you've ever expected to be. Use your resources, spend some time every day. And this is the thing that I know people don't always like doing. Obviously, like, work on your resume. Your friends are at home. Send your resume to your friends, have them edit it for you. And also your advisors are also probably in the same situation. They're at home. You take out that travel time every day. That saves time. That's going to make you more effective. But use these resources to really refine yourself. Some people will call it a glow up. But with all that being said, make sure that you're refining everything that you can right now and not wasting your time just watching Netflix. And then, as Jenna was saying, use your resources, handshake, LinkedIn, reach out to these companies. Don't be afraid. Put your first foot, reach out to this person before they are reaching out to you. Start that conversation with them. But yeah, that's all I got, Zach.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna and Joseph, for joining us, and great company, great opportunities there. So thank you, and have a good afternoon, everybody.